Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 1, The Advent of Lord Krishna, Introduction. Text 16. Vasudeva Katha Prashnaha Purusham Strin Punatihi Vaktaram Prachakam Shrotrins Tatpadas Salilam Yatha Vasudeva Katha Prashnaha Purusham Strin Punatihi Vaktaram Prachakam Shrotrims Tatpadas Salilam Yatha Vasudeva Katha Prashnaha Purusham Strin Punatihi Vaktaram Prachakam Shrotrims Tatpadas Salilam Yatha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. The Ganges emanating from the toe of Lord Vishnu purifies the three worlds, the upper, middle, and lower planetary systems. Similarly, when one asks questions about the pastimes and characteristics of Lord Vasudeva, Krishna, three varieties of men are purified: the speaker or preacher, he who inquires, and the people in general who listen. Purport. It is said, Tasmat Gurum Prapadyeta Jignasuh Shreya Uttamam. Bhagavatam, 11th Canto, 3rd Chapter, 21st Verse. Those interested in understanding transcendental subject matters as the goal of life must approach the bona fide spiritual master. Tasmat Gurum Prapadyeta. One must surrender to such a guru who can give right information about Krishna. Herein, Maharaj Parikshit has surrendered to the right personality, Shukadev Goswami, for enlightenment in Vasudeva Katha. Vasudev is the original personality of Godhead, who has unlimited spiritual activities. Srimad Bhagavatam is a record of such activities, and the Bhagavad Gita is a record of Vasudev speaking personally. Therefore, since the Krishna consciousness movement is full of Vasudeva Katha, anyone who hears, anyone who joins the movement, and anyone who preaches will be purified. Hare Krishna. Very warm greetings to everybody on the occasion of this most auspicious day of Sri Krishna Janmastami, the holy day of the appearance of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna in this material world. Continuing our discussion of events leading up to the actual appearance of the Lord in Mathura, we are presently on the first chapter of Canto 10 of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Suta Goswami has been mentioning how King Parikshit asked some questions about Krishna's appearance and his subsequent activities in Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwarka, and also in other places. And Suta Goswami then thanked King Parikshit with great respect, and then began to discourse on topics concerning Krishna. An ideal speaker of Krishna Katha, like Shukadev Goswami, is always pleased and enlivened when questions are pertinent, relevant, important, and beneficial. What kind of questions fall in this category? Questions that pertain to Krishna. Munayoh sadhu prishtoham bhavatbhir lok mangalam yat kritah Krishna samprashno yenatma suprasidati. In the Srimad Bhagavatam also, Suta Goswami thanks and congratulates the sages of Naimisharanya for asking him questions about Krishna. He said, Munayaha, O sages, Prishta aham, the questions you have asked me, I are very good, sadhu. In the society of sadhus, when one wants to appreciate someone for doing something or saying something, one says sadhu, sadhu. Oh, very nice, very good. So Suta Goswami congratulates these sages of Naimisharanya and says, sadhu, your questions are truly very praiseworthy. Why are they praiseworthy? Because they are concerned with Krishna. Yat kritah Krishna samprashno. Those questions are connected to Krishna. Bhavatbhir loka mangalam. And they are for the welfare and the benefit of the entire world. Yenatma suprasidati. And it is by such questions and the answers that follow that one's very soul will get completely satisfied. So Shukadev Goswami is also similarly pleased to hear the very relevant questions of Shukadev Goswami, of Parikshit Maharaj. And he says, Krishna Charitam Kali Kalmashagnam. He said Krishna Charita, in other words, topics concerning Krishna's name, form, pastimes, paraphernalia, etc., are Kali Kalmasha Gnam. Gnam means that which destroys. Kalmasha means the contamination, and Kali means the Kali Yuga. So in Kali Yuga, the hearts of people in general are full of all sorts of material contamination. And Krishna Charita, descriptions of Krishna, are perfectly appropriate to destroy such contamination in everybody's hearts. And then Shukadev Goswami begins to speak. And he says, O your Majesty, best of saintly kings, because you are greatly attracted to the topics of Vasudeva, it is certain that your intelligence is firmly fixed in spiritual understanding, which is the only true goal for humanity. Because that attraction is unceasing, it is certainly sublime. He uses the word Naishtiki Ratihi. Rati means attraction, intense attraction. And Naishtiki means that which is firm, which endures, which doesn't shake, which is unflinching. So one who has Naishtiki Ratihi, or unflinching attraction for Vasudeva Katha, is truly a fortunate person. Samyak Vyavasita Buddhihi, and one can understand that the intelligence of such a person is fixed and pure. Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport that Krishna Katha is compulsory for heads of state. And if the heads of state are not well versed in the topics concerning the Lord, how will they be able to lead the praja or the citizens? And therefore everyone quickly becomes degraded. And then Shukadev Goswami speaks this verse that we recited just now. The river Ganga, very exceptional. Of course, the waters of the Ganga are transcendental because they wash the lotus feet of the Lord and then flow into the universe. They first flow in the higher regions of the universe, and then eventually they come down onto earth and even go into the lower planetary systems. In the higher planetary systems, the river Ganga is known as Mandakini. On earth, she is known as Ganga. And in the lower planetary systems, she is known as Bhogavati. So she purifies the three planetary systems, upper, middle, and lower. And wherever she flows, she purifies anyone who comes in contact with her waters. In the same way, Krishna Katha is also transcendental. And there are three categories of people who get completely purified when they come in contact with Krishna Katha. And the three categories of people, as Shukadev Goswami says, are Vaktaram, Prachakam, and Shrotrin. Vaktaram indicates the person who speaks about Krishna. Prachakam indicates the person who inquires about Krishna. And Shrotrin indicates all the others who are assembled and who hear about Krishna. So this is indeed a very wonderful process where everyone who comes in contact with this Krishna Katha in any which way will be benefited. Perhaps in ways that we cannot even imagine. For example, we may have some bacteria in the air. Perhaps there are some flies in the air. And certainly there are innumerable bacteria within our bodies. They're all responsible for different functions. They help us in digestion and so on. Some are good bacteria, some are not so good bacteria. They all get purified if we are sitting in Krishna Katha. Even the blades of grass here, the sound vibrations of Krishna Katha, the holy names, they will reach out into the blades of grass. So truly speaking, it is mind-boggling the kind of effect that transcendental sound vibration can have. And who knows what these blades of grass will be. They have been hearing Krishna Katha for such a long time. The holy names of the Lord have been vibrating in this area. So who knows what they will be in the next life. So therefore, Krishna Katha is mandatory for everyone, especially the political leaders and leaders of all sorts. Because ultimately, every one of us is a leader in some or the other way. And then Shukadev Goswami begins the description of the background to Lord Krishna's appearance. He says Mother Bhumi, Prithvi Devi, was overburdened with the military phalanxes of the different kings all over her planet. And because these military kings and these forces were always creating a disturbance, she was extremely upset. She wasn't happy. She was feeling the great strain. This excessive buildup of military power all over the world is a cause of great strain to Mother Earth and to all the people and living entities living on Mother Earth. Srila Prabhupada speaks one or two harsh sentences here, but they reflect the reality. Quote, "When the residents of this earth become atheistic and godless, they descend to the status of animals like dogs and hogs, and thus their only business is to bark amongst themselves. This is dharmasya glani, deviation from the goal of human life." So this unrestricted buildup of military forces all over the world, atomic bombs and all sorts of missiles, creates havoc. And it destroys the valuable energy of human life, which is meant to be focused on hearing and chanting about Krishna. So Mother Earth, being very aggrieved, took the form of a cow, and she approached Lord Brahma in his planet, Brahmaloka. Brahma also became very concerned to see the plight of Mother Earth. And he also took Mother Earth to go to see Indra and all the other demigods and also Lord Shiva. And he explained the situation. Brahma, having understood the situation, felt himself incapable of solving the problem. So along with the demigods like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma and Indra and the others, he approached Lord Vishnu in the milk ocean, the Shweta Dvipa. Shweta means white, white because of milk, and Dvipa means the island. So Lord Vishnu resides in the milk ocean in the material world. That planet is of course transcendental, and he lies there on Ananta Shesha in mystic slumber. And from there he expands as Kshirodakashaya Vishnu into the hearts of all the living entities. Whenever the demigods are in trouble, they go to Shweta Dvipa. They stand on the shore of this milk ocean. They cannot see the Lord, but they merely understand that He's present. So on the shore of the milk ocean, they stay there and offer prayers. These prayers are called the Purusha Sukta prayers. Generally, traditional Brahmanas will chant these prayers. The Purusha Sukta prayers are chanted at the time of various religious ceremonies. So they go there and they chant these Purusha Sukta prayers, which are basically prayers in glorification of Krishna. But they have the conception of the godhood of the Supreme Lord. So to some degree, there is this mood of awe and reverence. So the Supreme Lord, as Kshirodakashaya Vishnu, lies there in the ocean of milk, and he hears the prayers of the demigods, and he is pleased. However, elsewhere, Srila Prabhupada points out that the Lord is not as pleased with the chanting of the Purusha Sukta prayers by the demigods as he is in Vrindavan when he hears the rebuke of the gopis, or he hears the apparently nonsensical chatter of the cowherd boys. So when Krishna hears the gopis scolding him, they sometimes pull him up, they insult him, then Krishna gets very happy. Or when Mother Yashoda scolds him, then he feels very happy. When his cowherd boyfriends talk amongst each other just like ordinary children do, some kind of nonsensical talk which has no meaning, Krishna feels very pleased with that. Because in Vrindavan such talk is devoid of conceptions of opulence and awe and reverence. Krishna is always seeking that sweetness of love of Vrindavan, and the talk that goes with it therefore is very pleasing to him. But in any case, here, lying in the milk ocean, he hears the prayers of the demigods and he responds. But how does he respond? He does not make himself visible, not even to Brahma, the chief amongst the demigods. As all the demigods assemble on the ocean of milk, on the shore, Brahma situates himself in deep meditation. And it is in trance that the Lord, Kshirodakashaya Vishnu, speaks to him. He reveals something to him from within the heart, as Brahma is deep in trance. No one else can hear what the Lord is saying. It is only Brahma who can hear. And even then, only from within his heart. Srila Prabhupada points out in the purport that this has also happened before, earlier, at the time of the creation of the universe. When Brahma is bewildered about what his course of action should be, he doesn't know what to do and how to create the universe. At that time, as is said in the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. Brahma is Adi Kavi, the original philosopher of this universe. So Tene Brahma Hrida, in his heart, the Supreme Lord reveals all knowledge that Brahma needs to perform the task of creation. And this happens a second time here, when Krishna is about to appear soon, and he creates the situation in such a way that the demigods now are obliged to go to the shore of the milk ocean. Srila Prabhupada mentions here the example of telephones. Modern science, Srila Prabhupada says, gives us telephones by which one can hear sound vibrations from a distant place. Similarly, although other persons cannot hear the words of Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma is able to hear the Lord's words within himself. When we speak on a telephone, generally, it is only we who can hear what the other person on the other side is speaking. Other people don't know what we are hearing. And there is some kind of extraordinary way in which the sound is transmitted from someone at a distant place, perhaps thousands of miles away, and we hear the sound very clearly. For those who are not acquainted with the technology, it might appear like a very mystical thing, something really extraordinary. But for one who understands the technology, it's quite ordinary. Similarly, the Lord also reveals his opinion or his guidance to Brahma by mystical telephony. Transcendental telephonic conversation goes on between the Lord and Brahma. And it is only personalities like Brahma who understand this transcendental technology who know what is going on. Even the other demigods don't know what's happening. They just know that Brahma is in communication with the Lord. So as Brahma sits there deep in trance, the Lord instructs him and tells him to pass on these instructions to the demigods who are patiently waiting along with him. And this is actually the causeless mercy of the Lord. Just see the position of the demigods. Krishna personally descends to the material world, to the earth planet. He manifests a facsimile, to use Prabhupada's word, of Vrindavan Dham on this planet earth, and then he becomes visible to everyone. Even the ordinary people on the earth planet can actually see him with their very own eyes. But the demigods in the higher planets, even when they go to the shore of the milk ocean, cannot see the Supreme Lord. Even Brahma cannot see him, and he has to rely on this transcendental telephonic exchange. So how fortunate are the residents of planet Earth? This is merely the causeless mercy of the Lord, Srila Prabhupada mentions here in the purport. Then Lord Brahma informs the demigods, yes, here is the instruction of the Lord. He is very well aware of the situation on earth. He knows how troubled and distressed Mother Earth is because of all the other kings on the planet. And he will very soon descend to mitigate the distress of Mother Earth and the residents of the earth planet. And the Lord instructs all of you to appear through your plenary expansions in the dynasty of the Yadus as the sons and grandsons there. A very important instruction. And then he says the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna himself will advent personally as the son of Vasudeva. So apart from all of you demigods, even your wives should appear in order to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport here a point which I also mentioned yesterday, that devotees who are very elevated in consciousness get a chance to participate in the Lord's Leelas when he descends to this world. And then they're finally fully 100% purified, they're completely trained, and then they are eligible to go to the spiritual world. Although the, the Vrindavan that manifests in the material world is also the spiritual world, but they actually get a chance now to go to the Goloka Vrindavan planet in the spiritual world. Srila Prabhupada mentions another interesting point here in this purport, that at every point in every universe, somewhere or the other, some pastime of Krishna is going on. Krishna has manifested himself in every single universe in the material world. And sequentially, one after the other, these different pastimes of the Lord take place. For example, when Krishna is born from Mother Devaki in this universe, at the next moment, he is born from Mother Devaki in another universe. And the next moment after that, he is again born from Mother Devaki in the third universe. And in the first universe, then Vasudeva prays to Krishna, Devaki prays to Krishna, and after they have prayed, in the second universe, Vasudeva and Devaki pray to Krishna. After they are done, in the third universe, this repeats. And in this way, sequentially, one after the other, the pastimes take place in one universe, and they also happen one after the other in the other universes. What a wonderful thing. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada says that these pastimes are Nitya Leela. Nitya Leela meaning eternally occurring pastimes. Generally, we associate the word Nitya Leela with the spiritual world. In Goloka Vrindavan, these pastimes of the Lord are constantly happening. But here is another interesting way to look at Nitya Leela. Because these pastimes are constantly happening, perhaps not at the same place in the material world, but in different places, but within the material creation. So therefore, from the point of view of the entire material creation, every pastime of the Lord is happening at any given time somewhere or the other. So it is Nitya Leela. So the Nitya Leela of the Lord happens not just in the spiritual world, but also in the material world. So these Surastri, the wives of the demigods, were also so fortunate that they would now get a chance to participate in the personal pastimes of the Lord in Braja. And the Lord instructs through Brahma to the demigods that his foremost plenary expansion, Balaram or Sankarshan, will also appear with him, just to please the Supreme Lord. And in addition, Vishnu Maya, Yoga Maya will also appear. And at the request of the Lord, she will appear with the different potencies and accomplish the purposes of the Lord. So Brahma conveyed this message to the demigods. The demigods were all satisfied. Mother Earth was also satisfied now that she knew that the Lord would very soon appear and he would mitigate her distress. So all the demigods then return to their own respective planets. Meanwhile, Shukadev Goswami now begins to describe what's going on here on the planet Earth in Mathura and related places. There was a king called Shurasena, who was a son of Devamidha. And he ruled the province of Mathura. And he was enjoying pastimes there in Mathura and Shurasena. The place of Mathura has always been the capital city of the Yadus. And they're intimately connected with the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Srila Prabhupada in the purport glorifies the holy land of Vrindavan and Mathura. And of course, at some point, we all have been to Vrindavan or Mathura. Perhaps we are hoping to go if we haven't gone sometime. And Prabhupada says that the transcendental influence of the holy land of Vraja is such that one immediately feels some transcendental experience upon entering the geographical boundaries of the holy Dham. Of course, it is very important to go in the right consciousness. Merely physically entering Vrindavan Dham is not adequate. One must go there with a proper frame of consciousness. Now, there was a king there also called Ahuka, because there were many kings in so many sub-dynasties. And Ahuka had two sons, among others. One was called Devaka, and the other was called Ugrasen. So Devaka had one daughter, other children as well, but one of his daughters was Devaki. And Ugrasen had many offspring, and amongst them was Kansa. So Kamsa and Devaki were first cousins. So generally in the Vedic culture, the cousin is also referred to as a sister or a brother. So we will see that Devaki is referred to as Kamsa's sister, but she is his first cousin. So in India, you will often find people using the endearing term, she's my cousin sister, which sometimes people in the West don't understand. They say, either she's your sister or she's your cousin, which is she? Or in India, you call it cousin sister. So to use that phrase, Devaki therefore is the cousin sister of Kamsa, the first cousin. So Devaki was getting married to Vasudeva, who was the son of Shurasena. The marriage ceremony was very grand. Upon the completion of this marriage ceremony, Kamsa, being very fond of his sister, his cousin Devaki, volunteered, as was the tradition, to escort his sister and her husband to her new home, that is to Vasudeva's home. So they were on the chariot. And even as he was about to start the chariot, where along with all the other dowry that Devaki's father had given, the kind of descriptions of the dowries here are quite mind-boggling. 10,000 horses, 400 elephants, all decorated with all sorts of ornaments and so on, and so many maidservants, etc. Such dowry, of course, was always given voluntarily. In the modern day, the word dowry in India has become like a pejorative because fathers of the girls are forced to give money. It becomes a kind of pressure. And even those who are financially poor, they cannot afford to give such dowry, but they're forced to. So they go into penury because they have to borrow large sums of money. But in the Vedic culture, dowry is that which is given happily according to one's capacity. Not that one is so obliged to give that one actually becomes reduced to helpless poverty. So in any case, because King Devaka was so wealthy, he could afford to give all of this. So then, as bugles and conch shells and other instruments were resounding, and Kamsa had taken hold of the reins of the chariot and was about to depart, the atmosphere was very joyous there because of this wedding ceremony. And at that moment, there was a voice that rung in the air, an unembodied voice. And it is said, it is Abhasya Aha Sharira Vak. Sharira Vak. Vak means voice, and Sharira means body. Asharira means without a body. So there was a voice without a body. And it came from the sky somewhere. So, of course, there were the demigods speaking. And they said, "You foolish rascal." Not a nice thing to say on the wedding ceremony as Kansa is preparing to take his sister to her husband's house. "You foolish rascal, the 8th child of this woman you are carrying, will kill you. So, what were the reasons for this unembodied voice ringing forth in the sky and warning Kamsa like this? Srila Prabhupada explains that the demigods got worried when they saw Kamsa becoming so affectionate to his sister. That's not what an asura is supposed to do. An asura is not supposed to be affectionate. He's supposed to be very cruel. And here was Kamsa, full of love for his dear sister and escorting her. So the demigods started worrying, if all the demons, if Kamsa starts becoming like this, then Krishna's advent will be delayed. So then they thought it wise to caution him that it was her eighth son who would be the cause of his death. And the second reason is that the 6 sons of Marichi was the son of Brahma and the resident of the higher planets, they had been cursed that they would be born as the 6 sons of Devaki, and they would eventually be killed by Kamsa, and they would return to their original abodes. So the demigods also wanted to facilitate one amongst them to be quickly born and return. So for these 2 reasons, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, the demigods spoke without being seen. Now Kamsa was basically an asura, meaning he was a person who was extremely arrogant, very proud, very egoistic. He wanted to be the lord and controller of everything he surveyed. He was envious and sinful. So at one moment he was very affectionate to his sister. At the next moment, when he heard this unembodied voice speaking, he became enraged. And he had the reins of the horses in his left hand. He released the reins and he caught hold of his sister's hair with his left hand. With his right hand, he removed the sword from the sheath, and he was about to kill her. He was about to sever her head. And Vasudeva was watching all this aghast, and he immediately, somehow or the other, in order to stop Kamsa, began to speak to him very sweet words. Because he knew how cruel and how powerful Kamsa was. So he had to make some attempt to try to dissuade Kamsa from killing Devaki. So he pleaded to him and appealed to his sense of valor and heroism as a Kshatriya. He says, you are the pride of the family and you are such a great hero. And the pride of a Kshatriya is in doing valorous activities. Now, what is so heroic about killing your sister? And that too on her wedding day, as she's about to leave for her husband's home. So you will earn great disrepute, my dear Kamsa. So your reputation will be considerably damaged. And then he said, he spoke an important, nice verse. Mrityur janmavatam veera dehena sahajayate adyavabda shatam teva mrityur vai praninam dhruvaha. My dear Kamsa, mrityur janmavatam veera. For one who has taken birth, death is certain. Dehena sahajayate. Death is born with the body. An important philosophical point. When is death born? Death is born when we are born. With the very birth of the body, death is born along with it, meaning that anyone who is born is destined to die. Jatasya hi dhruvam mrityur dhruvam janmam mritasya cha, as Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita. So why should Kamsa do something like this? That is Vasudeva's point to Kamsa. And then elaborately, for several verses, Vasudeva expounds on the theme of reincarnation. Quite a fascinating description of the mechanics of the subtle mechanics of reincarnation. So if we want to learn more about reincarnation, we should read this passage and the purports. Time does not permit us to elaborate on that. Suffice it to say here at this point that Vasudeva emphasizes how it is a flickering of the mind that is actually responsible for the change of body. The subtle is always the support of the gross, not the other way around. So because the mind is subtle and it goes through so many changes, there are multiple desires in the mind, and depending on the kind of thoughts and desires that one has cultivated throughout one's life, and the culmination of that is at the time of death, whatever the mental state, that will determine one's next life. So the state of the subtle body determines the state of one's gross body. In this way, having talked about reincarnation, he appeals to him that such an act would lead to great suffering in the next life, oh my dear Kamsa. So please desist from this horrible act. And the next point he makes to him is, Devaki is your younger sister, and she deserves to be affectionate